It's time for another episode of The Oil Stream with Dustin, Nielson, and Tom Gazzola. Presented by Popeyes Louisiana Kitchen.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of The Oil Stream. It is Nielson and Gazzola with you. The Oil Stream brought to you by Popeyes Louisiana Kitchen with 12 locations, 7 of them smack dab in the Edmonton area, all of them with DoorDash, Skip the Dishes, Uber Eats, and of course, pick up your Oilers Collector's Cup by ordering the Oilers package. These things are going to be available until April, so make sure you get your hands on those bad boys. Collect all 4 of them, including the ever so stylish reverse retro, which is where is it here? Here it is. These look good, Tommy. Like, they look as good as the jersey, don't they?
They look very good, and the jerseys look equally as good. And it's all this goodness bunched up into one little neat package. And hopefully last night was not the last time we see the reverse retros. I know the Oilers are trying to lobby the league or the North Division to get that jersey worn more times, and I hope that's the case. And if it's at the expense of the alternates, bueno.
Now, how, like, if they want to wear them, why would the league say no? Why would the league deny them of that?
I don't know if the league would really have any problem with it outside of the opposition teams. And if they wanted to, they could just turn it into their road jersey. I think it's more so at home if they want to wear them and you don't have the fans in the building. I think it's almost a formality. I haven't heard if there's been pushback, but I know that they are exploring or lobbying to wear them more often. And again, if they wear those ones more than the regular road jersey, then fine too. Like, it looks good. The orange pants are winning me over.
Yeah, I like those jerseys a lot. They're probably the best ones I've seen come along here in the last decade. I like them. All right, Tommy, we've got lots to get to. If you're watching on the live stream, subscribe to the podcast, obviously. If you're watching on TSN 1260's Facebook feed, you can comment on there as well. And no matter where you're watching, make sure you do subscribe to the podcast so you do not miss an episode, 2 episodes a week. And you know, I don't want to take a lot of credit for it, Tommy, but before we launched the Oil Stream, this organization had sucked for a long time, buddy. So it's really starting to pay off, isn't it?
Who knew that day at the ranch where you're like, you know, I'm thinking of doing this, and maybe you could hop on with me from time to time, would just turn around everything in oil country. And, you know, fate and good people, good times at good places. Sometimes the universe tosses us one. Maybe that's all it was. Maybe that's all it was, Dusty. I remember that day vividly, and I was sipping on my social sparkler. And as we approached, what is it, that par 3, was it the 3rd hole, 4th hole? And I remember I laid up a nice little 9-iron or pitching wedge, and I'm like, this is going to be a good day and maybe a good season on air and on the ice.
Was that the day we both shot 82?
Yeah, I think it was. That was
my best round of the year. Yeah, that was great, and we weren't even cheating. So that was great. No. That was awesome. Yeah. All right, Tommy. Let's get to the win last night. What stood out for you the most? Is it Mike Smith? Is Mike Smith the conversation from last night's game, or was it something else?
I think it is Mike Smith. I mean, he was amazing. Quite honestly, 6-0, oldest goalie to go 6-0 in NHL history. I know some people don't like the rule where you get yanked, and Mikko Koskinen became the goalie of record in that loss to Winnipeg, but he was wonderful to watch. I mean, Dusty, I thought we were going to see a goaltender's duel. I never would have expected a goaltender's duel in a Thatcher Demko, Mike Smith matchup. And for the first period, it truly was. And then the Oilers get one from Alex Chason. It was a bit of a garbage goal. It's funny how that works. Like, you think the grade A scoring chances are going to at some point convert, but it's just the garbage, bang them in, crash the net type of goals. And the Jesse Puljujarvi is the other example of that type of goal going in on Thatcher Demko and what was otherwise a pretty solid night for him. So to me, it was Mike Smith. And I think the Oilers found a way to win in a different type of game as well, which is a pleasant surprise.
Let's see here. This comment says, by the way, guys, the Popeyes Oilers deal is legit good. Great cup and also a lot of great food for $15. So there you go. That's coming from somebody in the live stream, not us just plugging it. So right. Yeah, that's great.
Hey, I just got a text from Mariah from Virgin. She's like, social sparkler. Yeah. I miss everybody in that building. We'll have to get together when things are normal for social sparklers many times.
Hopefully it happens at some point, buddy. Hopefully it does.
I know.
All right, so just ride this out with Mike Smith, or what do you expect? Smith isn't going to continue to play at this level. Now, could he have a great season? He could go on a run for 35 games out of 56 and put this team in a really good spot. And, it could lead to another year. It could be his last hurrah. Who knows? But how do you handle this over the short-term future here, Tommy, with Smith and Koskinen?
Instinctually, I would say go back to Mikko Koskinen for Saturday, but how do you deny the goalie that's been playing so well and giving you these wins? That's the tough part. And we had a texter last night on the post-game show say, hey, by the way, last time Mike Smith got a shutout, his next start was awful. And that kind of caught me, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. So I expected Mikko Koskinen last night. It didn't happen. Dave Tippett rolling with the hot hand. He's got good touch for this. It didn't work in the qualifying round, absolutely. But I feel like maybe too much of a good thing might spoil things. So maybe go back to Mikko Koskinen and see what he can do. He should be revved up and amped up and hoping to do something good against the Leafs. But I don't know. I'd go to Koskinen, Dusty.
And you hate Koskinen, so this is interesting.
I don't hate him.
I mean, you aren't wearing a Valin Camus shirt, so you might hate him.
The only way I get a Valin Camus shirt on this trim fit physique that's very European is if someone gives one to me. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
This trim fit physique that's very European. Yeah. You don't want to question Tippett because he's got a good feel for the goaltenders. And now you sit there and go, I was talking about with Rashog this morning. I was like, well, yeah, he's probably riding with Smith. But last year he didn't tend to run them very long, no matter how they were playing, right? So we'll see what happens. But it might not matter. I mean, the way they're playing right now in front of them, it might not matter. They've been outstanding. All right, a couple other things to get to, Tommy. Who loves Jesse Puljujarvi more, me or Tippett?
Well, the way he giggled when he was asked about Puljujarvi post-game
it's like how I giggle.
Right away, I was like, uh-oh, maybe he is Jesse Puljujarvi's number one fan, and Dusty better move over. It's pretty close. I mean, I think your love for him is undying and has stayed true throughout. So maybe it's more of a true love as opposed to Tippett in this honeymoon period with Jesse Puljujarvi being enamored with him and his performance and play.
Yeah, were you
Great
there
question.
Through the thick and thin, Tippett? No. Were you here having to listen to Speck and Maddie and Shoggy and Gregor and everybody say, this guy can't play in the league? No, Dave, you weren't. I was. I wrote it out with this guy. I ride it out. But no, it's funny because pretty much since Jesse first got back over here, Tippett has had, like, even when he wasn't playing, he wasn't producing well. I thought he was driving that third line pretty good early in the season, and obviously Tippett did as well because he ended up moving him up when Cassian wasn't going. But Tippett's really played this thing cool right from the start, hasn't he?
He has. And I think Puljujarvi giving you those little snippets and nuggets of good play was kind of the reassurance. It built up that trust and rapport that Tippett could finally say when there was a moment to thrust him onto that top line. Yeah, I think he can have success up there. So it's part of it is what Jesse was able to do when he came back, the refreshed attitude, the mindset, the maturity, and all of that. And then factor in his performance on the ice, and then Tippett saying, all right, it's time to give him a shot. And it just kind of, like a lot of things this season, clicked and fell into place, and it's been pretty good since.
That spot has been something of a rotation for McDavid's entire career, essentially, Tommy. Do you think it's kind of locked in? Like, do you think this is a top line that Tippett's not going to touch anytime soon?
Probably. I mean, there's no reason to mess with it. We saw some text last night saying move Nugent Hopkins down to the Draisaitl line, but don't tinker with this. Unlike the goaltending, you don't need to play around with this. You don't need to rotate anything. If one of those guys gets into a slump, then sure, get them off that line for a game or two, like they did with Cahoon off the Draisaitl line. Get them to find their game, play the gritty style, do the right things, no cheating and no lazy stuff in their game. and then bring them back up there because you know it works. And it's nice to see it clicking. Now we're seeing it click it on every line. Dusty, on Tuesday, I thought lines 3 and 4 were great. Last night, I thought line 3 had some excellent moments. And then line 3.5, when it got out there, was effective. But we all know that line was essentially penalty kill and power play and Chason and Haas. So they didn't really get a regular shift. But now all of a sudden you've got these combinations now in the top 2 lines and in the bottom 2 lines where you're like, I know these work. And if I need to change something because something's gone stale, you know which pieces you can move around and get that success going again. It's been wonderful and a pleasant surprise to watch if you're an Oilers fan, I think.
Nielson and Gazzola with you here on the Oil Stream, brought to you by Popeyes Louisiana Kitchen. If you're watching, subscribe to the podcast. If you're listening on the podcast, thank you very much for the download. We do appreciate the support. Bear back last night. Jones was still in there. Bouchard played about 8 minutes. Darnell Nurse still played 27 and a half. Like he's out there.
I know.
There's 7 D-men. This dude's still playing over 27 minutes. Obviously, Playfair and Tippet love what they have in Darnell Nurse on the back end. But Tommy, now that, Legason will be back here at some point. Obviously, Cuckoo won't. But How do you expect Tippet to manage that blue line moving forward?
It's going to be tough. Yesterday, you saw Tyson Barrie play in like a specialist role. He played 13 and some odd minutes, and half of those were on the power play. So, I mean, it gave him that luxury to roll them out in specialized roles, if you will. And it continues the buildup of Bouchard and Jones as well. And you get Bear. So you get Bear going again. So basically, he was able to check off a bunch of tasks last night, going 11 and 7. And it's almost to the point now where you're going to scout your opposition. And then by the scout or the pre-scout, you say which combination of these blue liners will work best against what we're anticipating against, say, Toronto on Saturday. That's how I feel it'll have to be. That'll be the plan of attack. And then if a guy has a tough game, one of the young guys does, then you get another young guy in and you say, all right, that guy had a tough one. He gets to regroup, watch from up top. And we'll get another guy in, different style, throw a different look at our opposition and go from there. I think that's where it might be trending towards. And then Lagesson's going to be ready to go soon too. Last I was told, they had to put him on IR to make space for Bears. So it's a conundrum, but a good one. And Dusty, maybe you can kind of pick and choose your spots and rely on your pre-scout and see what these guys have, especially in that bottom pairing.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. I would. Well, I mean, who knows with Larson? I mean, you can play Russell there, you can put Legason there. You got Nurse and Barrie kind of locked in usually together, but with Bareback could be in the mix. Yeah, I wonder if they could set it up where they've got 2 third pairs, where you've got 2 guys that play together for a couple games, come out. The other 2 guys play together, come out, because you've got the rotation of the Bouchards and the Legasons and Jones. And it's a weird issue to have. We don't really know what to say about this because we haven't seen it in 30 years, Tommy.
What is this? What is this? I don't get it. My brain is like, what?
It's so strange.
Bizarre. I know. Oilers fans have been clamoring and waiting for this for a long time, and they should embrace and enjoy it as we try to figure it out. And that's part of the fun. But I still am like, I don't know what you do with this. That's why the coaches get paid the big bucks and we get to talk about it and try to speculate and figure it out. But I honestly scratch my head. I'm like, you could probably throw anything out there and it seems to work right now. It's that good, it seems like.
Working right now. Let's just quickly look at the future of that blue line, though. And 2 guys that you don't necessarily see as a part of the long-term future. That's Larson and Barrie on the right side. The decision could come down to what happens with Clefbaum's availability and, if you need a defensive defenseman or an offensive defenseman. But, Tommy, if you were a betting man a year from now, would Larson be here? Would Barrie be here? Would both be here? Would neither be here?
That's a hard one. I'm starting to wonder if they approach Barrie and say, is there a mutual interest to make this a longer term stay? I don't know how much money they would throw at him. Obviously, he's limited in his defensive ability, but he's legitimate. And I don't think you're ready to thrust Bear or Bouchard into the type of game that Barrie plays, where he's on the power play, quarterbacking it, working with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Connor McDavid, and having the success that he's had. At some point, you expect Bouchard or Bear to step up and do that, but that might be 1 or 2 years down the road. Maybe you look at extending Barry for a year or two at a decent price. And then all of a sudden, Dusty, we saw Dave Pagnotta put out the article the other day that there has been no discussions with Adam Larson, but all of a sudden he's playing really well and they really like him in the room. He's an alternate captain. What's to say he doesn't stick around? I mean, it's like, do you have to make room for those guys yet? I don't know. I mean, you could look at Chris Russell on the left side and say, okay, I mean, thanks for being an Oiler. We need to step away, even though he has a year left next year. And what happens with Caleb Jones? Does he get exposed? What happens with William Lagesson? Does he get exposed to Seattle? But that right side, all of a sudden, it's looking really good, and there's a log jam. I don't see why both of those guys can't be here next season and you continue the development of either Bear or Bouchard or both of them.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Ken Holland plays with a little bit of, a decent amount of cap space compared to what he's had since his time so far here in Edmonton. So
about 25 mil.
Yeah, and I mean, some of that's probably going to go to a goalie unless Smith wins the Smith wins the Vezina and you bring him back. But yeah, some of that'll probably go to a goalie. Some of that'll have to go to Nugent Hopkins if you're going to keep him around. But you'll be able to build a few pieces here and maybe keep that blue line together if it continues to do the job that it's been doing so far. All right, Tommy, huge 3-game set as the rest of the nation we'll finally get to watch the Edmonton Oilers go up against the Toronto Maple Leafs. They've already played 4 times this year. They've split those first 4 games. Matthews banged up, didn't skate today. Yeah. Freddie Anderson wasn't on the ice today, so the Leafs aren't coming in here extremely healthy. Could be missing some big pieces. I would think Matthews plays, but we'll see how that sorts itself out on Saturday. But I view this as a chance, not just for the Oilers to catch the Leafs for the top spot, but to send a message to the entire division that, hey, the Leafs aren't unbeatable. The Leafs aren't untouchable. The Oilers have actually been playing the best hockey in the division as of late, having won 11 of 13. And I think the Oilers are up to the task. Like, I think this group, with the way they're playing right now, if the Leafs want to play physical, I think this group can play physical. If the Leafs want to play skilled, they can play skilled. If they want to shut it down a bit, this team has proven as of late they can do that as well. I think we should, because we're always going to read into this a lot. I think we actually should read into this 3-game set quite a bit.
It's going to dictate a lot of the future of this division for the rest of the season, because we're already 22 games in, 34 to go. This is the stretch drive, Dusty. And some statements can be made in this 3-game set. I think it'll be tight again, like all the games have been against the Leafs. And I think the Oilers will win one, lose one, and they'll lose one in OT. I think it'll be right on the fence. Doesn't matter like what type of game they throw at the Leafs. It's just been that good of a battle. And then the other team to consider is Winnipeg. I think they're going to be making a case for a top spot in the division as well. And they're going to have the guys in Winnipeg, Sean Reynolds, Kenny Wiebe, those boys are going to be talking about the same stuff we are when the Jets and the Leafs get going again as well. It's going to be this 3-headed monster potentially the rest of the way in the North Division.
Well, and I agree with all of that, which is why I think you got to finish first so you don't have to play Toronto or Winnipeg in the first round. Like, whoever finishes 2-3, whatever the combination of these teams, that's going to be a hell of a series. And I don't want to, throw shade at the Flames or Canucks or Habs, whoever gets that 4th spot. But I like the Oilers' chances a hell of a lot more against those teams than I do against Winnipeg or Toronto. In fact, I probably like their chances against Toronto even more than Winnipeg. So, yeah, that's going to be very interesting for those 3 teams down the stretch.
Hey, regardless of what the series looks like and who the teams are playing, both series in this division are going to be outstanding, I think. Anybody can win it. Regardless of where teams finish and how hot they're riding, I think we're in for a crazy couple of series in the North Division when the playoffs do start.
Craig on the live stream says, all the hosts on 1260 are doing podcasts. Hopefully this doesn't mean 1260 gets cut. Not anytime soon, Craig. You don't have to worry. It's just called a little bit of a side hustle. Just a little bit of a side hustle. That's all we got going on here. Tommy, Don Wheaton and White pregame show Saturday to get you ready for the Oilers and Leafs, and the postgame show after. What time will you be on the air on Saturday afternoon?
Hey, shameless plug, 3:30, Don Wheaton on White pregame show starts. Myself, Connor Halley, Matty Cassian, and then right after the game, Hernan slides in for Connor, and we got Cass coming back on, and it's been going pretty good. I mean, we've had a lot of feedback. We've had some listeners migrate over from Winnipeg and hop on. Marshall calls in almost every post game. So, side hustle indeed. And it's funny, it's kind of all in the family again, as we're tied in with 1260 on the podcast now. So it's just like this circle of love.
I guess that's what we can call it. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
So Tommy will be on the air tomorrow, pre and post game. I'll be posting hilarious GIFs all throughout the game when the puck drops tomorrow night at 5 o'clock. That's going to do it for another episode of the Oil Stream. If you have been watching on the live stream on Facebook or on 1260 or wherever, subscribe to the podcast. Do not miss an episode. Tommy, outside of a little work this weekend, any big plans?
None, like zero. Oh, by the way, shout out to Gord and the crew at Cattail Crossing, formerly Hunter's Green. Absolutely phenomenal work that they've done there. They remodeled the entire clubhouse, and they're going to be pumping a ton of money into that golf course. There's a great pond to skate on. It's like a family place now with a great restaurant. The head chef was from Hardware Grill. I just want to say thanks for having me and my pops out on Wednesday, and go check it out when we start swinging the sticks in about a month and a half here.
Man, I think I still have a gift certificate to Hardware Grill upstairs somewhere that we never got to use. So that's,
you and I will go to Cattail Crossing and play around, and don't worry, we'll have a couple of libation social sparklers after a great round on a nice day.
There you go. All right, have a great weekend, everybody. Tommy, have a good pre and post game show on Saturday. You know it's going to be absolutely lit no matter which way that game goes. It should be a good one, buddy. And once again, thank you very much to Popeyes Louisiana Kitchen for sponsoring the Oil Stream. Thanks to all of you for watching. Thanks to all of you for downloading and listening. We appreciate it. We'll be back next week. That'll be 2 games down. We'll be setting up the 3rd game of that 3-game set. Should be a doozy. Tommy, have a good weekend, buddy.
You too, my friend.